Howdy, all. Eklund will be here in a moment. We will be discussing some of the games that occurred last night in the NHL. But Ty, let's start with the game that you were concentrating on because I was checking back a number of different games last night, just trying to get a taste of all of them. And at a certain point, I turned on the Columbus Bruins game, and it was 3-1 Columbus, and it seemed that the Bruins were struggling. And when I checked back, it was 5-3. So where did things go wrong for John Tortorella?
Well, they're a young defense, the youngest in team history. I think the average age of the Columbus Blue Jackets defenseman is about 23 years old right now.
Right.
Obviously, Werenski and Jones is their top pairing. It's going to be a monster top pairing in 2 to 3 years, but right now they still have some growing pains to go through. And they're going against, we talk about the Bruins, we talk about their youth, but there's a lot of experience up front. And they really got worked by the end of that game by the Marchand, Backes, Pastrnak line, which was really a makeshift top line, but it actually worked a lot. It did a lot of great things for the Bruins. They were responsible for all of the goals last night. 2 goals for Marchand, 2 goals for Backes, 2 goals for Pastrnak. So that's really what took over for the Blue Jackets, was just their youth couldn't handle what the Bruins were doing. And the Bruins, and I've never said this before in my life, the speed of the Bruins really seemed to bother the Blue Jackets. And we're not accustomed to saying that. I know I'm not, but definitely a different kind of game.
Now, I saw before the game, in the morning leading up to the game, Bergeron was out. Kevin Miller had I think it was a broken finger or a broken hand. That
He's
he's
a
out.
fracture in his left hand, yeah.
Yeah, so he's out for 4 to 6 weeks. And I believe McQuaid was out as well. So
yeah, upper body injury for McQuaid day to day. He's beginning on IR, so he's out for 3 games. But yeah.
So I mean, the Bruins. So the Bruins sort of started behind the 8 ball without their. I mean, to me, even though Krejci is the number one center in terms of offense, I think we both know that Bergeron is the straw that stirs the drink. I think he's the number one, the de facto number one center, but he's more of a two-way guy.
Yeah, and he's the best player on the team. It's as simple as that now. We look at it. He's the best because he's sort of eclipsed Chara, as being the best player on that team. So I would agree with that.
Now, injuries seem to be the norm right now in the NHL, and if we're going to talk about that, we have to talk about Buffalo because not only, Kyle Poso was out because of a bruised knee. Was the least serious of the things that were going on with the Sabres. Jack Eichel was introduced yesterday in the opening ceremonies for the Sabres and came out on a scooter. And waved hello and then quickly turned around. Carey Price didn't play in the game against Montreal, but the one that occurred during the game, and I mean, we still do not know the severity of the injury, but if you saw Alexei Emelin, and can I just say Alexei Emelin, he seems to be a magnet for either controversy or a dirty hit. And I don't think this was dirty, but he caught Evander Kane at full flight. He went airborne and he crashed into the end boards, and he was taken via stretcher to a Buffalo hospital. The indications are there's no specificity right now of what the injury is, but to me it looked like it was a hip. And if it was a hip injury, you're in trouble.
Yeah, it was not a pretty looking injury, and my big beef with Emelin is that this has kind of always been the beef, and I know players kind of have this as well. Is he sort of is a magnet for these kind of hits in this trouble, but you can't fight him because of the plates in his face or his head, whatever it is. He can't fight, so he's never really held accountable. I've heard people tell me that sort of bothers them about Alexei Emelin, is that you can't fight him because of this. So. I know we're getting a little inside rivalries here, but it's one of those things where is it interesting that you have a guy who's sort of a magnet for that kind of stuff. There's a few players like that, whether it's Matt Cook was one, Rafi Torres was another. I was gonna say Jordan Tutu, but he's really not that bad. He's more of an agitator.
Jarko Ruutu was
yeah.
One.
He was one for sure.
So it's interesting how that tends to work out, but. That's scary. You say what you want about Evander Kane, his personality issues and whatnot. You never want to see a guy get hurt, especially on opening night. And already down Jack Eichel, that would be a gigantic loss for the Buffalo.
Yeah, and Buffalo could not generate offense in that game last night. But just touching on Montreal, and then I'll let I take over again. I made a joke when we were talking about the Atlantic that the Orkin man in Montreal would have to be alerted because. But if you look at that team, I mean Gallagher is a premier pest. And Emelin has always been the type of player that he's been, and now you add Andrew Shaw, who I don't know whether his slew foot at the end of the game is being reviewed by the league, but it should be because with mere seconds left to go, he slew footed Johan Larsson of the Sabres, and this is coming off the suspension that he had during the preseason. So this guy, let's say he's out of control, but he's somebody who plays on the edge, and he's got to be stopped sometimes. He's got to be called on it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. All right, let's get started here because we got a couple games from last night to talk about and some games this weekend. Should be good ones. And we'll say this is the 14th of October. Ready? Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It's Friday, October 14th, 2016.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Ty Anderson.
And I'm Eklund. You're watching the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com, the first non-prediction show, sort of the year that we're going to do. Even though I have some wacky predictions to go through because they're always fun to talk about. But we'll go through them in a little bit. But yeah, let's start here. We're 2 games into the season now. The St. Louis Blues are undefeated already, 2-0. Taking another game last night. A lot of 1-goal games last night. I was looking at very close games last night all around, and a lot of high scoring. This has been true the last couple years early in the year that we get high scoring games. I mean, when you look at last night's games, look at 3-5, 6-3, 4-1, 4-6, 4-5. These are not normal games. The night before that, we had a 6-4 game, and but last night, I was watching the I don't know what games you guys were watching. I was watching the Tampa Detroit game.
Yeah,
I'm assuming you were watching the Blue Jackets and the Bruins, Ty.
Yeah, I got the game on right now in the back. I got the Lightning Red Wings game on in the background right here, just kind of looking up every now and then. No, yeah, I mean that's where I was focused, but I kept tuning back to the Lightning Red Wings on my laptop, and really what stood out for me in that game is their power play with a full year of Jonathan Drouin is going to be off the charts good.
Yeah.
The movement they have is just incredible. And I think it's going to scare a lot of teams this year because that's going to be tough to stop once they're fully healthy, once Callahan comes back. If he even has a role, I mean, he'd be better off in the second unit, obviously. But this is a situation where the Lightning are just reloaded. Everyone's back. Everyone's going to be just as strong as they were last year, if not even stronger.
Oh, yeah. And they came through big because, the Red Wings got out to a 2-0 lead in this game. And that was a little surprising. But then from there on, they just took over. Well, Tampa just took over. Mike?
Thomas Vanek actually looked rejuvenated in that game. I don't think Detroit is expecting to get the Thomas Vanek of old who could score 30 goals. More like the Thomas Vanek of Minnesota where he scored 15 to 20, and they're paying him based on that type of production. But he gets 2 goals in his first game, and if they can get 20 to 25 out of him, then that's an unexpected source of offense that I don't think they thought that they were going to have. But to tie in your point, Tampa Bay is the team that I'm expecting to come out of the Eastern Conference. I mean, they're loaded for bear. I think they're going to keep both goaltenders, barring any major injury, and that's saying a lot because they've had major injuries in the past. And if Drouin takes a step forward, hopefully he will after a traumatic year last year. I think they're well in line to challenge for the Stanley Cup this year.
Yeah, it's fascinating too. Detroit gets the 2 games, gets their goals. 2 goals from Vanek in the first period, and then they get a goal from Nielsen in the second. They had their signees coming in and doing the job right away, right off the bat. It's always good. That's what general managers like to see. Their UFAs taking, and then the DeKaiser goal was crazy. That was a lot of fun. It looked like a bubble hockey goal. Like actually, we were joking around it because we were playing bubble hockey a little bit last night between periods, my wife and I, and that's like a typical, wrap it around the boards, might hit something wacky, ends up in the net type situation. But yeah, that was DeKaiser's goal. That was crazy. So this game was a little bit, but what was kind of impressive to me is the Lightning just got stronger as it went, and at the end of the game, even when they had they had gotten the empty net goal by Fippolo at 18:39. The Lightning dominated the last minute and a half of that game, which you don't often see. A team like that just kept coming, even though they were up 6-4. They just kept coming, trying to get the elusive Eklund goal, as I like to call it, which is the goal that's scored when you put your goalie back in the net after you've been scored on it with an empty net goal, and then they score again on the goalie. That's called an Eklund goal. We don't see that very often, but Pelle Eklund scored that goal a long time ago, so I've named that the Eklund goal.
Yes, well, yeah.
And it happens sometimes. And somebody mentioned it the other day, which is really funny. All right, but let's get on to the Bruins and Blue Jackets. This was, I got like one tweet from Mike, one text from Mike. I saw there was somebody who just said the Blue Jackets are a bad team. That's what I saw.
Yeah. Not wrong.
Not wrong necessarily. This is what the Bruins want. I mean, the Bruins, gosh, talk about again. Guys coming in, Backes comes in and takes over again. Ty, what were your thoughts?
I mean, Backes, he 2 days notice, he's told, hey, you're going to center the top line with Marchand and Pastrnak, and they only had 2 practices, and to have that chemistry right off the bat says a lot about what they believe and what they can do with Backes. I mean, this is a guy who was brought here to replace Louis Eriksson. When Louis Eriksson was in Boston, he played left wing, right wing, on the third line, second line, first line. He did whatever they wanted. So, and they have a similar player here in Backes who can play both the center and the wing. Obviously, now, if you look back to what Backes has done, he finished the preseason with 6 assists in 3 games. And now he has 2 goals and 1 assist in 1 regular season game. So he and this has been across the board with different line mates, different players every game. So he's had production no matter where they've put him, which says a lot about kind of who he is and what he's here to do. And obviously he wears the A last night in Bergeron's absence, which says a lot about him, and what they view him as a leader there. So this looks like a great signing for the Bruins. Obviously it's 1 game in, but the comfort level that Backes has with the new team is really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, to step in. I mean, Marchand again continued his torrid, World Cup with 2 goals, but and that line got all their goals. I mean, that was impressive when you think about it. I mean, like you said, just stepping in there.
Yeah. Marchand now he had 5 points, and
that's crazy.
It ties a career high in points. And now, if you go back to the start of his season last year, you include the World Cup of hockey, include the World Championships, he has, I think it's 46 goals and 81 points in his last 94 games. It's like this guy is producing at a point per game pace here. It's just incredible stuff. I
know, and for just a guy who mainly made his, he's always been a scorer, but never like this. I mean, this is something. I mean, he was all of that in the World Cup. Watching him play live, I mean, like I said, they completely won me over with his ability, and he was just a huge player for Team Canada. And I never would have. I mean, that's something you never would have predicted before last season. If you would have said that, Marchand's going to be a big contributor in the before the NHL season started, if you said at the end of this year he's going to go on to the Canada to play for Team Canada and be a huge contributor, maybe get I thought he was the MVP of Team Canada, to be honest.
Right. But if I wrote that, I'm biased. But
yeah, no, I'm not, and I don't like Marchand at all. So I'm I'm unbiased, and I'll say right off the bat that guy was he was the MVP. I mean, whenever they needed something to happen, he made it happen, and that was the difference.
Yeah, and when you go back to 2011, when the Bruins were the Bruins and they won the Cup, Marchand scored all the big goals. That's really what he did. It was Horton and Marchand were the guys that scored the big goals for the Bruins. So, he's sort of getting back to that point. I think he's been honest about himself. He had those struggles there where he wasn't really doing much, and he came out and he admitted that he started seeing a sports psychologist. That sort of got him mentally focused on where he needs to be as a player and as a person. And it's definitely shown. You look at what he's done now these past 2-3 years, really incredible stuff. The thing is, he's always had this kind of shot. He's always had this offensive capabilities, but now he's finding the space to use it, and he's simply shooting the puck entirely more than he ever used to.
Yeah, no, that's what's been. I mean, it's just impressive performance overall.
Well, the one thing with Marchand though, it's like, and I think what you're talking about here, Ty, is because he seemed to start falling into a rut for like a year or two where he was only the pest. He was not, taking advantage of his actual, offensive gift. So at least they weren't coming to the forefront. And then I think he's realized he can be more than just that, that irritant, that type of player that just gets underneath the other team's skin. Because if you can play that, like Corey Perry has proved, you can be a pain in the ass, but you can also be a 50 goal scorer, and you can also win the Hart Trophy. So you can do both things. So I think that Marchand may have realized in the last year or so that he's capable of more than just being that irritant.
Oh, definitely, and that's something that I think gets in guys' mindsets. You know what I mean? Like you think about every agitator or pest or whatever. A lot of these guys can actually score some goals and play hockey, but if you pigeonhole them into that spot where they're just out there to annoy, I look at the usage, right? We I always joke about this. Like people forget that when the Rangers got Sean Avery and they put him on their top line, he was kind of incredible for a little while there. He was a great fit with Nylander and Yager. And he was playing hockey. And then when they brought a new coach, a new system in, he was on the fourth line just agitating, and he was out of the league in 2 years. Granted, he had his own reasons and personality problems, but if you put these guys into roles where they can succeed, more often than not, they will. Not every guy is just Zach Ronaldo or just Matt Cook. Some of these guys can actually score goals and contribute to a hockey team.
That's a great way of putting it. Not every guy is Zach Ronaldo.
Back in the 90s, maybe. I don't.
That'd be a good title for the show. Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm with you. The other game I was watching that was, I was going flipping back and forth, of course, and probably what a lot of people watched because it was the national game, was the Penguins Capitals game. And this one had a lot of intrigue to it. Honestly, it was surprising. And one of the most interesting things about this game to me was the Marc-Andre Fleury show. Like here, forgotten, but not, but not, maybe, not totally written off yet. The rumors of Marc-Andre Fleury being dead are a little bit exaggerated. I mean, he is completely, last night, he stops 37 of 39 shots against a team that takes hard shots. Like this is that the Capitals get good, high quality shots. And he outduels Holtby basically. And they end up winning the game. Holtby, faces 29 shots. He faces 39 shots. So it's, and without Crosby, and the Penguins just they come through. They come through with a big win. Their defense was a little bit more suspect than you'd seen it. And this is one of the things I've talked about the Penguins before. Like last year, the Penguins at the beginning of the year, their defense was struggling, and you saw it last night again. I thought where their defense kind of went backwards and maybe some of that is what we talked about before, like Matt Murray, and just the fact that Matt Murray calms them down so much. And Fleury plays a lot more hectic in there, is a lot more scrambly, but they did tend to go backwards towards that, and there were some issues. And in the I don't think the transition game was particularly good from defense to offense for the Penguins, like it was last year, where it was just ridiculous. Like that transition game was phenomenal, and maybe that had something to do with it too. But
well, I mean, there has been some slight changes on their blue line. I mean, Lovejoy out and Pouliot in. You don't have the goalie that you went through the entire playoffs with in there. You don't have. You don't have some of your key players up front. I mean, there are a number of debuts in the first 2 days of the season that teams are a little off, and that's something like after a week or two they get straightened out.
Oh yeah, no, it's true, and this is it's just one game and all that stuff. But I liked what I saw out of let's say like Sheary, for example, Sheary goes out, and we were wondering whether or not he would be the same kind of player. He was the same kind of player to be. Like I thought he played pretty well. Ovechkin.
That team is still built to win.
Yeah.
And it's scary to think because this team now with Kessel and with the defense and with two goalies, they are entirely more well equipped to handle a Crosby loss than they had ever been before.
Yes.
Even when they had Jordan Stahl and those guys, like this is a better team than back in those days.
It's a great point. That's exactly it. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. They are. That's why when you talked about yesterday when I picked them to actually win this division this year. Even if Crosby's misses an extended period of time, even though Matt Murray's going to miss an extended period of time, I think they're definitely set up for it. They just have more depth. I mean, Hornquist is coming into his own too. You can really see he's going to become that guy. He's going to become the guy that we always thought he would be.
He'll be like Kunitz, where he's just
yeah.
He's got a benefit when he plays with Crosby, but he'll be okay without it. He'll probably be better than Kunitz is without Crosby.
No, that's exactly right. To me, he's Holmstrom. The old Red Wings guy who would be in front of the net and plant himself and be a problem. That's what Hornquist is, and he's great at that. And the Penguins never had that. The Penguins never had a guy who would sit in front of the net and take a beating like he will. Hornquist will take that beating. The Penguins have never. That's been their weakness. And what do we see? Crosby's out, and who comes up? Who steps up? Malkin, and this has been the history of Malkin's history. He is the better player when he is the number one center on a team. This is why I think he will eventually be traded. He will eventually play someplace else. But this is last night. You see why it's nice not to trade him when Crosby's out of the lineup. It's nice to have him in there.
Yeah, but the problem is, with that theory is it's gotten to the point now in their careers. I mean, Malkin is what, 28, 27,
Yeah.
or 28 years old. It's gotten past the point that you're going to get a good enough return to actually move him, or somebody will take him.
Oh, I don't agree with that.
I'm making $9 million at 28 years old. I mean, he's at the apex right now. A year or two, and he's going to start to go down. And
How many more years are in his contract?
I can check. I think it's 2 or 3.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I'll take 3 more years at Malkin at $9 million any day of the week. He.
Excuse me. No, he's got 5 more.
All right, so 5 more years. I'll even go there. I mean, to me, you're right, Mike, that he's maybe on the downside of his. I don't think he's on the downside of his career, to be honest.
I said he's at the apex of his career.
Maybe the apex. He's still. So say he's at the apex for maybe 2 more years. If you have to deal with another 2 years of Malkin, that you're overpaying him, but he's still a really good player. There are plenty of teams that'll take Malkin. He's incredibly tradable. Like last year when they put that out, they did put that out. To that Malkin could be possibly had if there was the right thing, and I don't care what anyone says. I know they did it because I talked to so many people who told me that they did it. They got no one who turned around and cared about his contract. I mean, no one. I mean, they were ready. They were ready to go. Ty, thoughts on?
I mean, well, it's gonna happen. I think it's one of those things where it's probably gonna happen eventually, whether it's a cap crunch move or something maybe he wants out, things like that. But it's tough to find a fit for a top line center at that price. Like it's becoming difficult, but maybe with the revenue expect to go up, especially when Vegas comes into play, maybe there's a situation where they find the perfect move for him. But it's one of those things. I mean, we always thought that. I mean, I thought that Lemieux and Yager were going to be together forever, and that wasn't the case. So maybe it reminds me a bit of that.
Yeah, I think
not entirely the same, but it's like, how long can the superstar tandem really last for you to be able to fit everyone in at their price? So I do wonder, but obviously it's one of those things right now where maybe Sid's health allows Malkin to stay there forever. Maybe that's a situation where it just worked itself out.
Yeah, and I think that last year, why I think there were so many talks last year about Malkin going is that I think the middle of last year, they were really considering it. They were considering it for after the season. They weren't considering it for during the season, but they were considering it. Okay, in the middle of last year when the Penguins were struggling, they're sitting back and they're saying, okay, if we're going to move Malkin, this is the time to do it. We have a lot of stuff we have a lot of players we have to sign. We've got a lot of players coming in. This is the time to do it. And then they go and win the Stanley Cup, and that changes things all the time. It just does. And you saw it in Boston. It makes you do things you don't necessarily want to do, or you wouldn't do if you hadn't won the Stanley Cup. Basically, the bottom line is you wouldn't sign some of the players that you do because you end up signing a couple players, especially third and fourth line guys. You end up signing because you won a Stanley Cup with them, and they get a little bit more than they should. And this happened in Carolina. It happened in Boston. It's happened all over, and it sets teams back quite often. And it happened in Pittsburgh. Yeah, it happened in LA. It happens. You can't avoid it when you win the Stanley Cup. It's a real issue, And that to me is what's kind of interesting about the Penguins team is that those guys, those third and fourth liners, don't have to worry about signing for a while. A lot of them are entry level guys or different, so they're in a great spot there. So that's why that team doesn't have to worry too much about it. Although another guy I saw that was really impressed with last night in the game, and I wanted to mention him again because I've mentioned him before, and I think that he's not on my wacky prediction list, but he would be one of my players to look for this year. Is Tom Wilson, who again, last night he took 5 shots. He was really, for the Caps, he's a big guy. I mean, the Caps are a giant team in general, but Tom Wilson's another big player, but Wilson's got skill. He's got like a Keith Primo-ish type thing to him that reminds me of. That's who he reminds me of at times. I think Tom Wilson's going to be a player.
He's got the size. I just don't know whether he'll ever have the kind of finish that Primo did, because Primo could score 25 to 30 goals with regularity.
Yeah.
until he ran into the concussion problems. And Tom Wilson strikes me as more, and maybe it's the fact that it was 25 to 30 goals in a more offensive era. And if a guy scores 15 in this era, it's like scoring 25 back then. But I don't see
Yeah.
Tom Wilson scoring more than 10 to 15 goals, because I don't think he's going to get the opportunity with Ovechkin, with Backstrom, with Kuznetsov, with Burakovsky. I don't think that he is earmarked on the Caps to be a top 6 guy. I think he's a top 9 guy, and his size is his one benefit in terms of making a difference. They love him being a crash and bang guy.
Yeah. No, that's true. They do.
I mean, he was the guy. He was the guy everyone thought was going to be that right winger to Ovechkin Backstrom when it was, when teams were noticing the model that Boston had for a little while there with Lucic, Savard, and Kessel, or Lucic, Krejci, and Horton. It was kind of like, all right, well, let's put a big dude there, and similar with Zach Kassian, what they thought Zach Kassian would be with the Sedins. It's like that. There was a trend there for a while where teams were trying to do that. They were trying to make that happen.
That's right. We have an update here. Mike Harrington from the Buffalo News is reporting that Dan Bylsma indicated after the morning skate that Evander Kane has 3 cracked ribs and is out for weeks, not days, weeks. So
man, that is a painful thing to have. 3 cracked
put that on top of Eichel, who probably won't be back until after Thanksgiving, and you're talking about 2 players on the Sabres top line that are out for probably the first 2 months of the season.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to have a bad knee. It's another that hurts when you walk on it. It's another thing to have a cracked rib. If you ever had a cracked rib before, that hurts when you breathe. It's like every breath. And I can't imagine. I've had one before, but I can't imagine having 3 of them. I mean, that's just.
And every time you turn, it hurts.
Buffalo will never have nice things. This is what I'm learning.
That's why Buffalo can't have nice things.
I know, Ty. I know that feeling.
Speaking of nice things.
It's true.
Speaking of nice things, normally I would not have tuned in for a Carolina Hurricanes Winnipeg Jets game, right? Like I was thinking as I'm looking to see what channel that's on, I'm thinking to myself, I'm actually looking to see what channel the Hurricane Jets game's on. And that kind of was, I'm like, that's pretty cool. And it was a fun game to watch. I mean, it was really interesting. I watched the replay of it again today. I was impressed by this game. This was a game that, really.
Well,
I don't know. I thought
it can be entertaining hockey when 2 lower division teams play, and that's what you have. You have 2 rebuilding clubs in Carolina and Winnipeg, some young talent, but there's, the fact that you have a young goaltender in Hellebuck, you have young players on the Jets, young players on the Canes. They're going to make mistakes, and mistakes sometimes mean excitement. And I saw a few minutes of that game and saw the replay of Patrick Laine's goal, and I just know that Patrick Laine right now is only 25% as good as Austin Matthews.
He did have an assist though, so I'm going to give him a little bit closer, but yeah. But all that he was not a plus. He was not a plus player. He was a 0. He was an even player, which is kind of strange, to be a plus. To when you have 2 points and you end up even. But all the players again that you want. Scheifele gets a goal. That's what you want. Blake Wheeler has a goal and 2 assists as in his first game as captain. There was the right things happening for this team. On defense, they looked. Enstrom gets a couple assists, and Enstrom looked good. Enstrom was moving the puck a lot better. Buffalo, I was a little disappointed in this game. I thought it was a little bit invisible, which we've seen before with Buffalo sometimes. But he's got to be visible. he's got to be a disturber. He's got to be out there making changes. He's very much. And then on the other side of things, the often like the team, a lot of us put in last place in the division, the Carolina Hurricanes. They sit there and. They get Aho comes in and with a point, and Rask gets a point or gets a goal actually.
I'm not picking up Rask. I'm not on that show. I'm not.
Yeah.
All right.
That team, if they can cut the cord with Cam Ward, which has been the hardest thing they've ever tried to do, they will be somewhat competitive.
Ty, because we did our review of the Metro yesterday, and I said that Bill Peters is one of the better coaches in this league of getting something out of nothing, or something out of I mean, that team is not a strong team right now. They're a rebuilding team.
Yeah. No, I know.
The 2 years that he's been there, he's been able to get that team higher in the standings than anybody expected them to do with a lot of young players. And they're starting to add more talent. They get Teravainen, they have Rask, as you said, they have
Yep.
Aho and Lindholm and Hannafin. I mean, there's that core group of young guys. It's going to take a couple years, but if Stahl and Skinner have decent years too, then I think they're going to end up like 5th, 6th in that division instead of 7th or 8th.
That's it was funny because when the summer came and they re-signed, signed Cam Ward, and it was like 3 years and it was 4 something or 3 something a year. I went, oh, cool, he's paying them that, right? He's going to pay them to go play for them because he's been so bad for so long now.
Yeah.
It's just keeping him, I think, really hurts what they're trying to do because he's not great, but he's also going to have some nights where he stops 34 or 36, and he's going to keep you in this weird sort of, okay, you're not great enough to be terrible. I'm sorry, you're not bad enough to be terrible, but you're not good enough to be a playoff team if he's your number one.
Yeah.
So with Cam Ward, you're kind of stuck in this middle of nowhere. But I think if you give the crease to Eddie Lack, I mean, I like Eddie Lack. I think he could do a much better job, and I think he did last year.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I mean, but I think this is another case where they honestly, even though it seems like forever ago, they still really have a hugely high regard for Cam Ward in that city, because he did win a Conn Smythe and win a Stanley Cup for them, and they see that, there's they're going to give him the benefit of the doubt there, and they're going to let him try. And you're right, he's going to keep them from becoming a lottery team sometimes, because that's what he's going to do. But there were other things. This game was surprisingly well played defensively, which was really not what you would expect of these two teams. Each team only had like 22 shots, which is, that's really like 27-26. Sorry. So yeah, I saw it late in the game. I guess some of those shots were late. There were not a lot of shots late in the third period in this game. And compare that to the 39 shots that the Washington Capitals took against the Penguins. I mean, it's a big difference. So I think that. Yeah, and another thing that stood out in this game for me was the Hurricanes winning almost 70% of their faceoffs against the Jets. That's a huge number. I mean, you don't see that in the NHL very often. A team get to 70%. So that was a fun game. Now the other game, of course, I haven't watched this game as much as I wanted to. This is a game I was watching, but when we had to start the show, was the Islanders and Rangers. I know you watched this, Mike.
Yeah, I watched some of it, and it's typical Metro Division battle. It was close until late. I know that the game-winning goal, Pavel Buchnevich, who Russ has talked about a lot, a Russian prospect that they drafted in the 3rd round a few years ago, made a nice long pass to Chris Kreider, who scored the game-winning goal. Well, actually, it was the go-ahead goal, and then Brock Nelson scored late to make it not the game-winning goal. But the Rangers scored 3 goals in the 3rd period. Lundqvist played very well. The one thing that Russ and I were talking to each other during the via our little message thing, and Rick Nash is painfully slow, and it was apparent yesterday. I mean, he may score 20 goals just by being in front of the net and being a big presence. But the days of Rick Nash being a dominant player in this league, I think, are over with. And what the Rangers are going to have to win with is, balanced scoring, getting offense from guys like Zuccarello and Stepan. Jimmy Vesey looked pretty decent in his NHL debut. Getting offense from a number of players and not having to depend on Rick Nash, because if they're going to depend on Nash, they're not going to win.
Yeah, and this goes into. I actually would like to hear your predictions, Ty, for this Metro Division. If you want to rip them off real fast.
Yeah, I did a note in my iPhone because I tweeted this and said, "Don't yell at me," and then everyone yelled at me.
I actually think it's funny because I've been doing a prediction thing. I've been doing this study on predictions. I'm going to release in a few weeks. I've gone back and I have an intern who's helping me do this, which is really cool. And gone back for yes, I have an intern working with me right now who went back for 3 years and found all the predictions they could find from anyone, like people on Hockey Buzz, people at Sportsnet, people all over the place. And I want to find out who you really should listen to when it comes to predictions, like who is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And you actually are pretty good. Like I've gone through some of your things and I was surprising. So like let me hear your Metro. What you got here?
Metro is number 1, the Penguins. I just think they're too loaded. They still have too many things going well. Number 2, the Capitals. I have them there. Number 3, I have the Philadelphia Flyers, actually, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Some people think that that's a little high for them, but I think that team is going to be really good this year.
Yep.
In the 4th spot, I have the Islanders. I still think that they have enough goaltending and young talent to hang, even though they lost like Pozo and Nielsen and guys like that. 5th place, I have the Rangers. I just think the defense is getting older. I'm not in love with it anymore. I think Lundqvist is still too much pressure on him. 6th spot, I have the Hurricanes. 7, I have the Devils. And 8, I have the Blue Jackets. It's worth noting that I have both the Islanders and the Rangers making the playoffs, though. They are the 2 wild cards in the East for me.
Well, like I said, I think you're excellent at this because you actually picked almost exactly the same thing that I picked, with the exception of the of flipping the Blue Jackets and Hurricanes. But the first 5 teams in the same exact order, I agree the Flyers aren't getting enough credit for what they've added. And I know I'm a homer on that, but last year I picked the Flyers to finish in 6th, so I'm not always.
There's tremendous balance there in their lineup, and I think that's only gonna be even better when Schen's back from his suspension. And then you're talking about their defense. A full year of Gostisbehere is going to be great. It's just they have a lot of things going for them, and Provorov's going to make life hell, I think, for the opposition, and I think it's going to help the defense overall. The depth, it's going to make everyone have to compete harder. So I think they have a good system there, and I do sort of believe in what Hextall is doing. I think when it comes to having guys earn their roles, and I think Hextall's been a great coach too. So they have a nice little thing going on there. It's kind of flown under the radar.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. We'll see. I mean, I was the only one. I think Mike, you had most people had him in 5th.
Had who? The Rangers in 5th?
The Flyers.
Yeah, I had the Flyers 5th. Yeah, I had them. Yeah. And I think they still could make the playoffs. I like I said. I mean, I think it depends on the fact that they need Gostisbehere to play as well as he did last year. If he takes a step back, then I think there's more pressure on a guy like Provorov to really step up and have a big year in his rookie season. It's not out of the question, but I think it's just putting a lot of pressure on a 19-year-old guy to be, as you said, like a shutdown guy or a guy who can clear the front of the net. I mean, you need veteran guys to do that. You can't depend on a 19-year-old guy to really do that. But I still think Washington's going to win this division. I'm not taking away anything from Pittsburgh. I just think Pittsburgh is going to have a little bit of a Stanley Cup hangover. The injury thing's a question mark. And, I mean, when they get Murray back, will Murray be the goaltender of the second half of last year and in the playoffs, or will he take a step back? Sometimes that happens. It takes a little while to get back to, after playing a situation where everything is riding on things. A regular season game just doesn't come up to that level of excitement, and sometimes it takes a little while to adjust to that.
Yeah, I agree with all that. But we'll see. Now I want to go into some wacky predictions here while we're in the last minute. So I wanted to throw them out to you. Mike, you have something else to add?
Yeah, just a little Maple Leaf related stuff. The Leafs are announcing their top 100 players of all time. The number
Matthews is included in this list.
No, he is not included. Not after one game. Number 100 was James Van Riemsdyk.
Whoa.
Yes. Now I'm not going to obviously not read it off, but I do have the number
all 100. All 100.
Yeah. Let's do it, Mike. Come on.
But the number one.
Let's have a complicated discussion on each of them as we go.
Yeah, no,
JVR.
Don't worry. I'll have that on my blog. But the number 1 ranked player, which is not surprising because he was unveiled as a member of Legends Row yesterday, was Dave Keon, who won 4 Stanley Cups in the 1960s. So Dave Keon, who was separated from the Leaf organization for almost a quarter of a century because of the way that the organization treated him when he was a player, now has come back into the fold, and now he's recognized as a member of Legends Row and as the best player of all time.
There you go.
Where does Alexei Ponikarovsky rank in this list?
Probably in the top 600, but not in it.
Ty Domi? Ty Domi?
He's actually in the top 100. I don't know where, but
he is not.
What about Nick Antropov?
Darcy Tucker was 70th.
Is Nick Antropov
for a franchise?
I probably not. I wouldn't think, but
Yeah.
I hope Matt Sundin is in the maybe the teens. That would be justified.
So here's my big question: does Dion Phaneuf make this list?
I think he did. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Phil Kessel?
All right, for a team with this much history and has been around for this long, this list is definitely something we should discuss at some point, but not now.
No.
Phil
Not now.
Kessel.
We will get into this.
Phil
Yes.
Kessel.
I think Ty Domi gets in there because he's still hanging around. Like he I saw him outside of the arena every game after in the World Cup. He was always outside taking autographs. The nicest guy in the world, but come on now. Anyway, cab drivers. There's nothing like Toronto cab drivers to tell you all about what's going on with the players in that city. My gosh, every cab driver I took, because they knew I had my hockey credential, and they would tell me about all these different places they took people. And all the different what was the oh man, there's one place that I think is a strip club. I'm not sure. Anyway, we'll leave it there. It's a name that I can't remember what it was.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. All right. So last year, this is my 4th year of my annual wacky predictions. I try to do I've done as many as 30 this year. Did 12. So because I want these to be actually things that I think could happen, but no one else will probably think could happen, and no one else is really talking about it. Sometimes people debate that, that's something I thought would happen too, but these are usually pretty wacky, and I will show you they're wacky by like 3 that I missed last year, for example. I had at number 2, I had the Detroit Red Wings will win the Atlantic Division. That did not happen. I had the Toronto Maple Leafs will not finish in the bottom 10 of the NHL. That did not happen. I had Sergei Plotnikov will have a bigger impact on the Penguins than Phil Kessel. That did not happen.
He's
So
back to the KHL.
right, there's 3. There's 3, right? Now here's 3 that I got pretty good. Okay, so for what it's worth, I said one of Stamkos, Kopitar, or Eric Stahl will become a UFA on July 1st. That did happen. Actually, 2 of them became UFAs, and technically because Stamkos is a UFA. Yeah. Number 11, the Edmonton Oilers will move a major forward for a major defenseman during the season. Well, no, not quite during the season, but I said one of RNH, Eberle, Yakupov, or Draisaitl will be the cost, and I wrote possibly even Taylor Hall. Okay, that did not happen, but did happen later. Then I got Kreider, who I have Kreider on there, who was really impressive. I said he will score more goals than Rick Nash for the New York Rangers. I got that right. And I also said, and I don't know why this has been eliminated from my blog, but I did say this last year, and I think this happened, right? That the Predators would finish ranked 7th in weren't they 7th and 7th seed going into the playoffs? They were the first wildcard team, right? So that would make them the 7th seed.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, because they took on Anaheim, right?
Right. I wrote they would be
I don't know.
I wrote they would be
Yeah,
the
they
7th
did.
seed, but I wrote that they would go to the conference finals. I had the Predators going to the conference final as the 7th seed. So that did happen.
No, it didn't.
No, it did not. Right. That's why that was taken out. They did not.
It was taken out because you got it wrong. Come on.
All right. Well, there you go. That's what I know.
For this year.
All right, and I also put some of the things that some of our comment people put in there. Yep, accuracy. Hey, there you have it. All right, so let's go with my wacky predictions. A few of them for 2016-17. Ready?
And Ty and I can destroy them, right?
You guys can take them apart.
Okay.
As if they haven't already been taken apart in the
in the comments.
In the comment threads, because along with the one that I thought was right, wasn't. Okay, here we go. Number 1, after no Canadian team made the playoffs in 15-16. I predict 5 Canadian teams, all but Vancouver and Toronto, will be in the playoffs in 16-17.
You're out of your mind.
You're out of your mind.
All right.
Not a chance in hell. I think it'll be 2 Canadian teams in the playoffs. 2.
How many Canadian teams, Ty?
2.
If I go through my list, I think I got 1, and it's the Edmonton Oilers.
You don't have the Montreal Canadiens in the playoffs?
I do not.
Wow.
I think they got rid of their best player. They got older and slower and more aggressive, and I've seen the Bruins do that, and it never works out.
Right. Wow. All right.
Think about how hard Carey Price had to work to get his wins when they had Subban. Now you have an older, slower guy there, and Andrei Markov, I think, is actually a cadaver at this point. Like I just don't believe in what they're doing there. I think one of them's I think the GM or the coach is gonna get fired before the season's over.
They'll both.
That was going to be one of mine too, but I think that's not a wacky enough prediction, so I had to go away from that. All right. Number 2, Anthony Duclair will be in the top 10 in NHL scoring.
No, but he's a very good young player. I don't think he will be a top 10 scorer on that team.
You know who it would be? If there's gonna be a Coyote in there, it's gonna be like Ekman Larson, which is crazy. He's a defenseman, I know, but the way he produces points is kind of absurd.
I think they're a pairing I think if one of that pairing is going to be close to the top 10, it'll be Max Domi.
Okay. All right. Pretty good. All right. All right. We will see 3 coaches fired by Christmas. Last year I said none would be fired the entire season, by the way. So that's why I'm putting this in as a wacky thing. I thought last year we'd go without a coach being fired. I really looked at the coaches. I'm like, there's really nothing that can go wrong here enough to get anybody fired. But I think I can see 3 coaches being fired by Christmas this year.
But you're not going to specify who you think, right?
No.
Okay. I mean, I see. I think 3. If the over/under is 3, I'm going to go under. I think that there's 2 possibilities. If it's a complete crap show in Columbus, that maybe Tortorella gets fired, but I think they're going to stick with him. Maybe Willie Desjardins in Vancouver if that's a show. But yeah, no, not by Christmas. So
I got your third right here. His name is Jack Capuano.
if they don't do well.
Yeah.
Well, of course, no coach is going to get fired if they do well, Mike.
Oh, but duh.
Number 4, Matt Murray will win the Vezina Trophy.
Nah.
No.
Nope. For me, I think it's the same horses as last year. With maybe add Carey Price in the mix. I think it's Bishop, Holtby, Price, and a guy I would throw in that maybe some people
Crawford.
wouldn't. John Gibson. I think this could be a year for him.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think Bishop. I don't think Bishop because I think Bishop is going to get less work this year, and Vasilevsky's going to get more. They'll probably split them down the middle, but they may help him in terms of his stats. I think Crawford could be in the mix there, but it'll be Price, Holtby, and Crawford.
All right, I got something on Bishop coming up, though. But number 5 first, the Ottawa Senators will be in the top 5 in scoring.
What are they gonna do? Are they gonna bring back Spezza, Alfredson, and Heatley? How's that gonna happen?
I don't know. I keep when I watch them play in the preseason, and I see Guy Boucher's style. I just think they're going to be a scoring machine. When I saw them play against Toronto, they were a scoring machine.
They played Toronto. You're talking about a defense with Martin Marinson on the top pairing. Come on.
These wacky predictions should not be agreed with. I have no problem with you guys disagreeing with them. If they were agreed with, they wouldn't be wacky, right? So
I'll tell you this right now. If Ottawa is in the top 5 in scoring as you predict, they will be at the bottom of the Atlantic Division as I predict, because that's the problem. They can score, they can't stop anybody. They have to maybe score a little less and stop their opposition from being able to score, and they didn't do that. Some kid from Scottsdale did score 4 goals.
yeah, no, I know, but that he's remarkable. They shut down the rest of the team. So all right, so along those lines, I will as a little aside, which I didn't write in here, that Bobby Ryan will be an All-Star. I just have a feeling that Bobby Ryan's gonna have a huge year this year. In preseason and in the regular, even against the Maple Leafs, he looked really good to me. Like he looks like he's on top of his game. And he's been very disrespected for a very long time. So
I think
he's from my hometown, so I'm giving him a one.
I think that team has 1 All-Star, and it'll be Erickson.
That's a safe fit. All right, number 6, along Ben Bishop line. Ben Bishop will be moved to the Calgary Flames at or before the trade deadline. I did not say this the other day.
No, of course not, because they have that great goaltender Brian Elliott.
I know. I did not say this the other day because I was saying exactly what you said, Mike. But after watching that game, and I know it's only 1 game, I'm being completely unfair on Brian Elliott, and I'm going to say that I just have a sense that Bishop will be moved. And after watching Bishop last night, again, not super impressed. So, but
I don't think it's a good system for Brian Elliott. I don't think this is going to fit what makes him good.
Yeah,
I just don't think they have that more running, like the way they kind of do their offense and their defense. I don't think they have the personnel that St. Louis had, obviously, that helped Brian Elliott. It might be more of a mess than what Elliott was when he was in Ottawa versus what he was in St. Louis.
Well, ironically, what you could see happen, because Brian Elliott is a UFA at the end of the year, is you could see if you're on this rumor, Ben Bishop could get traded for Brian Elliott, because then Elliott would be the backup for Vasilevsky in Tampa.
Right, where he might work better.
Yeah.
All right, number 7. The Vegas team will be named the Black Knights after all. At the end of the day, it'll be the Black Knights. They'll figure out a way to do it, and I think that's why we don't have a name yet. I think they're still trying to find a way to do it. That's my theory.
I mean, I would love that name. I like it. I
Yeah.
like it entirely more than Desert Knights.
Desert Knights is an atrocity.
What's the other one? Knights.
Desert Knights is like a Cinemax movie in the 80s.
The
It's like
Jordan Knights. I don't know what the.
yeah, it's like a late night Cinemax movie in the 80s. Desert Knights. That's like I don't know. I'm not there. All right, so
Cinemax.
the Winnipeg Jets will finish ahead of the LA Kings in the standings.
Not a chance in hell.
Nope. Even with Zadkoff in net, I still like the Kings more than I like the Jets.
Okay, there you go.
The Peter Budaj era has begun.
The NHL, number 9. The NHL will announce next year's Winter Classic won't be played in a stadium, but rather Central Park in New York City.
That's possible. I know that they're always looking outside the box in terms of like a new thing. That might be possible.
You know what would kind of be awesome is they just stop doing the Winter Classic for like 5 years, make it special again.
Huh? Interesting.
They're not going to because it's such a cash cow for them. But like,
yeah, no,
think about, like, we're out of ideas. We're out of stadiums. We're out of like there's nothing.
Yeah.
Not to have St. Louis involved. It's like, all right, this is everything.
The last good baseball stadium, right? I mean, that is like the last the good baseball stadiums. I agree.
What they need to do is have the Winter Classic at that. Either have it on top of the building in Toronto like they had the rink last year, or have it up like in the Arctic like they had the during that commercial for the Molson.
Yeah, something like that. That would be great. Just like put up some stands and have it really be exclusive. You have to win tickets to it. Just like have this crazy little thing. I think that would be phenomenal. I will say this, that I believe the Winter Classic could morph into the All-Star game at some point.
Yeah.
That's
what it should. That's where we're trending, I think.
And what I would do with it is this. This is how I would do it. I would make it a under 24 team versus an over 24 team game. And that's how I do it. I would take basically, your Team North America, but include like the younger players like Patrick Laine and just the best young under 24 players against the over 24 players in the All-Star game. As in a 4-on-4 format. So you want to
bring back North America versus the world. Do that.
Yeah, that would be fun. I'm okay with that. All right, number 10. We'll get out of here soon. Number 10, the Flyers starting goalie in the opening game of the playoffs will not be either Mason or Neuwirth.
Who's it going to be?
You think it'll be Anthony Stolarz?
Or this kid they drafted this year who is like, crazy young, but
Carter Hart.
They love him. I'm saying this not because I think either. I think both goalies will be good this year. I just think both will be hurt. This is just a typical thing for the Flyers to me that both will be hurt at the time that the playoffs start. It could be Stolarz, but I just have a feeling, for whatever reason, that neither will be starting.
They're going to bring back Michael Leighton or Jason LaBarbera.
I've lived through too many things. Number 11, a lot of people will like this one. The NHL Center Ice Package will be legally forced to change its blackout policies regarding in-market games. There is some litigation going on right now that could make this a reality. That the whole concept of that, you pay for the Center Ice Package, you can't watch the games in your own team, in your own market. Is being challenged. It's horrible. It's being challenged in courts. It's not at all, in tune with anything else that's happening on the internet with Hulu and stuff like that. It's completely antiquated.
Where I like to see the NHL go, and the funny thing is, there's precedence with this with MLB BAM, is the fact that if you buy the MLB at bat package for, say, cable, you get it on the computer.
Right.
You get the radio, and you get it on the computer as well. And I know for my own purposes, I buy the Center Ice package every year,
right?
And then I can't get Game Center Live unless I pay another $149.
Right.
So I think that if you're paying once, you should get it on all platforms. I think that's a good thing. That would be a good thing.
Yeah, that's how it should be for sure, and that could happen. Maybe that's how it'll be changed, but I think it'll be changed more. And finally, number 12. This is sort of over the next 3 years, but it kind of goes along with my Canadian teams. Within the next 3 years, we will have an all-Canadian Stanley Cup final. I think when you look at the teams that we have coming up, and the
within 3 years, no.
Within 3 years, yep.
Within 5 years, maybe, but not within 3 years. Okay, from the East, I don't think the three Eastern teams. I don't think Ottawa's anywhere close to being into a Stanley Cup final. Montreal, their window is now. And
You're forgetting one team in the way in
and,
the East.
and Toronto is going to take at least 2 to 3 years at least to become a playoff team, not a Stanley Cup contender. They're
But
on
within 3 years, we're also going to have the Quebec Nordiques.
wow, come on. I mean, yeah, and who's that going to be? The Carolina Hurricanes? That's what I'm saying. If it's the Florida Panthers, maybe you're right.
All right. So, and in the West, I mean, you've got lots of things. And I did pick, remember, my other wacky prediction I didn't put on here is I did pick Edmonton to finish second in the Pacific Division.
Yes, we do.
Now, you have them in the playoffs, Ty, so how high do you have them?
Wild card.
Wild card? Yep.
Yeah.
That would have been better for me to do that. But, yeah, I went for gold.
I have them 5th in the Pacific. Still too many.
I went for broke. I don't know. They're, you can see how frustrated McClellan was the other night in that game for sure. But, and the giving up 2 shorthanded goals, that was crazy. Like within a very short period of time, they handed 2 shorthanded goals to the Calgary Flames. Like not just, and this has been the thing with the Edmonton Oilers in recent memory. Like since I've been covering this, it feels like the Oilers are the best team in the world when I go to sleep. Like I go to bed, they're always winning. They're up 2-0, 3-1. It's the first period. They're romping on a team. It's like incredible. I go to bed, I wake up, and they've lost. Or they've blown it. It's like the Oilers are they're a terrible team.
2 periods is not a victory make.
Yeah, I got to stay awake for them to be good, and that's not something that's likely going to happen all year. So for now, we're doing our best. Anyway, do you guys have anything you'd like to throw out there in terms of really wacky predictions?
PK Subban will have 60 points.
Ah, nice. That's a good number. I like that.
I'll come up with one for Monday. I need to prepare.
It's a wacky prediction. You can't prepare. It's just got to be something like off your, something like Austin Matthews will score 100 goals or something like just like totally crazy.
I'll win the Powerball. There you go.
There you go. All right, guys. Enjoy the games tonight. But let me just talk about tonight's games real fast because we have a couple really good ones tonight, and I just had the list up. But I know the Flyers open tonight. Obviously, that they play in LA, and that's going to be. I mean, it is a little bit of a downer that Jonathan Quick's not going to be in this game.
We have 3 games tonight. Flyers, Kings, Chicago at Nashville on NBCSN.
That's going to be a great one because PK Subban, the Blackhawks in Nashville. You can't. I mean, if you're going down to that game, I'm very jealous, Predators fans.
And in a boring defensive struggle, the Oilers and Flames rematch in Calgary.
The
Battle of Alberta is back, man. It's back. I mean, it's exciting.
This is the best time of year, baby, when you got those 7 p.m. games and those 9:30, 10 p.m. games on the East Coast. It's the best.
I know. It's the best. It really is. It's awesome. I love it. 3 great games tonight, guys. So enjoy it. I think the Flyers are going to be fun to watch. It'll be and tonight I haven't even heard who's. I guess Mason's going to go and goal. I have not heard exactly.
Well, maybe he gets hurt. He's going to live up to your prediction.
All right. Not yet. Come on, give him time here. All right, guys. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We'll see you on Monday.